with a child and maybe you treat that child unjustly, right? So don't you try to make it up? What do you get, a piece of candy? You know? Throat lozenge. She was in a class, honest to goodness, this lady, how many years ago has that been? 10, 12 years ago. I'm teaching out in Elm Grove, and she and Fred show up. I'm looking at them. They're not my class. What are they doing here? And they said, can we sit in? And I said, what? Can we just sit in? And I said, you want to come? Right? And you did. And they did. I'm thinking, man. Can you imagine an 18-year-old coming in your classroom? Hey, Dr. Javersak, can I sit in? Would you lecture me? No. Dear sir, if the time comes when you wish to establish another Carnegie Free Library and are uncertain as to the place where it is most needed, will you consider the city of Wheeling? I do not intend to beg for the city, nor to advise you how to dispose of your money. And if the mere suggestion I am making is unwelcome to you, I hope you will take no further thought of it. Wheeling needs a good library, sadly. This city is scarcely able to provide a suitable one, and is by no means willing to do what it can and should do in that direction. For the latter reason especially, we shall probably do without the library until someone from outside thinks best to offer substantial help. I wonder why that is. Well, he goes on. This is distinctively a labor city. And he's right, it is. The most unionized city in West Virginia at the beginning of the 20th century was Wheeling. 40% of all the people in unions in West Virginia were in Wheeling. Which shouldn't surprise you, because Wheeling had more industrial jobs than every other major city in in West Virginia combined. So, just, okay. Probably there is no other in this city, in this country, of about 60,000, including suburbs. The population of Wheeling at that time was about 38,000. Wheeling in 1899 consisted of First Street, up there where you turn off to North Park, down to Benwood, from the river to the top of the hill. Nothing from Wardwood, nothing from Woodsdale, nothing from Fulton, nothing from Elm Grove. That's a separate entity. Won't become part of Wheeling until 1920. So in those, and that's about 48 streets, you have about 38,000, almost 40,000 people. Okay? So when you go out in those streets and you say, wow, where'd they put all those people? Remember, every place where you see a vacant lot or a parking lot, there was a house or a building or an apartment house. Okay? Whose character, no other city has such a character as a labor city. Few men here have much money, and there is not a large fortune in the city. Well, how many times have I been asked, wasn't Wheeling one of the richest cities in America? Not according to Mr. Hubbard, it wasn't. Those who have enough for easy living have earned it themselves, and do not have the inclination or opportunity while earning it to learn to appreciate the things for which a large free library stands. I speak in general terms. Had the prosperity continued, which Wheeling had in the iron business 3 or 2 decades ago, we might have had a considerable class of people with money, with education enough to value public libraries, who could supply our need and influence public sentiment, so on. And then he goes on to tell you how Wheeling has declined. Remember, this is 1899. And he's talking about Wheeling being pushed back because of Pittsburgh. Okay? And it is true that Pittsburgh continued to grow, and Wheeling's growth slowed. Okay? They didn't stop. Here's the last paragraph. We have no college. The high school was established a year ago in face of determined opposition, grounded on the fact that the children of working people, quote, ought to be at work instead of reading books, unquote. It is conducted in a remodeled dwelling house. Few children are sent away to school, and public sentiment considers the city well equipped with all that is necessary to make its citizens the equals of others. Teachers in the city must all be Wheelingites, and must be women because they are cheaper. Yeah, it's probably not untrue. You will not care for further illustrations of the fact that those of us who wish to carry out these ideas of civic progress are made helpless by the ignorance of the working population. It would be hard to imagine a city in more desperate need of intellectual improvement and more hopelessly blind to the need than Wheeling. Should you ever care to interest yourself in the city, the appreciation and gratitude of a minority will be increasingly keen and strong. Now, we don't deserve a library, and we got a whole bunch of dumb folks, but could you give us some of your money anyhow? Now, that's my review of Mr. Hubbard's letter. What's happening here is two things. One, the labor relations in American communities is getting worse. Wasn't always bad. It's getting worse. Okay? But to suggest that the working class is the problem belies the fact that Wheeling at this time has no water filtration system. None. And the only reason that Wheeling got its first water filtration system is that the Ohio Valley Trades and Labor Assembly convinced city people to put one in. Martin's Ferry, for goodness sake, had a filtration system. Bel Air had a filtration. Wheeling did. What's that mean? That means they pumped the water right out of the river and it went right into your tap. And there's no sewage. Now, I want you to imagine, remember, 38 to 40,000 people in 48 blocks and no sewage systems. And remember back when we had all those nice warm days when it was 90 and it was humid? Oh, boy. Okay? But our working class folks don't know the gym. They should have a library. Well, maybe if you educated them about what a library does. But it's interesting, if you went into the labor halls, they had a small, ready, library. Now, Andrew Carnegie starts giving libraries away. And I mean, he starts giving them away. Okay? Let me read you a little description. The first library comes in 1886. It comes in Allegheny, Pennsylvania. Allegheny, Pennsylvania is now what you know as the north side of Pittsburgh. Okay. And for many years, an average of 500 applications a year came in for libraries. Indiana received grants to build 164 libraries throughout the state of Indiana. New York City got 65 libraries. You'll find Carnegie libraries in the United Kingdom, Australia, South America, South Africa, the West Indies, the Seychelles Islands, Mauritius, Fiji. Now, in the late 19th century, one of the humorous writers was a man by the name of Finley Peter Dunn. And he had a column called Mr. Dooley, who was an Irishman. And he would poke fun at people. Has Andy Carnegie given you a library yet? Said Mr. Dooley. Not that I know of, says Mr. Hennessy. He will. You'll not escape him. Before he dies, he hopes to cross